Hey, Alchemist, and welcome to part one of our new series, The Game of Life. Now, today I am going to be sharing a foundational principle, and it's this foundational principle that opens doors so we can master this game of life. So I highly encourage you to actually listen to this whole talk, listen to this whole video if you can, okay? But this idea of the game of life, it was inspired by the book, The Game of Life, by Florence Scovel Shinn. And she says this right at the beginning of the book. Most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle. It is a game. Yeah, it's a game. It's a game. However, it may not always feel that way when we walk around in our life saying things to ourselves like, life is so hard. Life is unfair. Why is this so difficult? Why doesn't anything ever work out? Right? It can feel like a battle because it seems like we keep having these obstacles come up, keeping us from having the experiences that we desire. However, that being said, I will say that I still stand by the conviction that life is a game. Now, I found this quote from Dr. Karen Purvis. And she said this: scientists have discovered that it takes approximately 400 repetitions to create a new synapse in the brain, unless it is done in play, in which case it only takes 10 to 20 repetitions. Okay, now first of all, a synapse is there's things happening in our brain when we learn something new, right? We create these neural pathways, and the neural pathway contains information about a thing we know and do. This is why when we're learning something, when we're doing something for the first time, it can feel clunky, right? Like think about the first time you drove a car, how complicated that felt. Yet after so many repetitions, there was a synapse created, and all of a sudden now you have a pathway containing the information about driving, right? So now you can drive around and you're probably not even thinking about driving, right? You're probably doing complex mathematical formulas in your head or something, right? Like you don't have to concentrate fully on the steering wheel and your gears and all that, okay? Now, when the synapse is created, that's that moment when things click. We just get it, right? We just get it. A neural pathway has been created. And it either took us around 400 repetitions, or if it was in play, 10 to 20 repetitions. We learn faster through play, right? That's the point. We learn faster through play. So you can see that it would serve us to see life as a game. Okay, now, games were a big part of my life growing up. I think I could probably say that about my whole generation, right? That games were a big deal. Games were such a big deal in my house that we had a whole cabinet that held all of the games that we played, right? And I don't even remember learning how to play these games because I was raised with these games. Now, sometimes we'd make up our own rules. Like a lot of the times it was just me and my sister playing games. And as I was 5 years older than her, it wasn't really much of a competition. I could win really easy on a lot of stuff because she was so much younger than me. And so we created our own rules. So the game became more about cooperation, right? So Monopoly, she loved the railroads. I'd help her get the railroads. I loved purple and blue streets. So she'd help me buy the purple and blue streets. Now, it's not a big deal. We were just having fun. Okay, but if me or my sister had wanted to be a Monopoly master, we would have to actually master the specific rules for the game of Monopoly, right? We were not mastering that game, even though we were having fun, okay? Now, there's a set of rules that we learn about life also, right? We learn these rules and from our parents, our friends, our community, our family, and they may be accurate in service or maybe they don't, okay? Like I know when I was growing up, one of the rules I learned from my grandma was that rich people are rich probably because they're criminals. That was just her belief. She was raised in the South during the Depression, and this is what her family would say. right? Rich people are criminals, okay? So, another rule like that I was raised with was in the wintertime, as soon as the wintertime hits, we're going to all get a cold, right? Now I know that's not true, okay? Here's my favorite rule I was raised with, that if we're swimming and having a good time and then we get out to eat lunch, we have to wait 2 hours before we can swim. Well, I guess like medically, it's really only 30 minutes. But my mom would say 2 hours. I think she just needed a break, right, from watching us play in the pool. Now, if we're growing up, right, we're growing up with these rules. They may or may not be accurate. They may or may not serve us. For example, if we grow up with the idea that money is the root of all evil, we may have trouble with money, right? We may have trouble creating prosperity. So the game of life has a set of cosmic rules. And if we want to master the game of life, we follow those rules. Now, basically, what is the whole game of life about anyway, right? It's super simple. It is us discovering what it is that works through us, for us, as us. This game is to discover our cosmic nature, our divine nature. And then even when we are faced with difficult conditions, even though we're going to end up at some point being faced with pain and suffering, can we remember our divine nature? That's the game, right? To remember that we are like what we come from, that we are created in the image and likeness of that creator, and that we create with purpose and intention, like original source creates, okay? And so that's the whole game, just remembering who we really are, a divine being in a body. So today, we're going to start with the basic rule for playing this game. And it is gaining understanding of this basic rule that helps us to start opening the doors so we can level up in how we play this game of life. And here is that first rule. You've heard it a million times. Know thyself. Okay? Know thyself. Know thyself. Which implies then to also be yourself. Okay? Know yourself and then be yourself. So know thyself was found on the Temple of Apollo. It's one of the Delphic maxims. And know thyself is included in the unity principles that I talk about all the time. Unity principles. God is all things. Each of us are an expression of God. We create our experiences through our way of thinking and acting. Meditation, affirmative prayer, this aligns us more deeply with the infinite within. And it's not enough to know this stuff. We must live this stuff, right? Know it, live it. Know it, live it, okay? Now these principles, they're multi-level, so we can keep going deeper. And you could do the same thing with the universal laws, right? They're basic, but you can go deeper with all of them. Okay, so we go deeper with this idea of knowing ourselves by starting with God is all things, right? God is all things. And at first it might just look like, okay, yeah, God is all things. Everything comes from the one source. But then it's like, okay, wait, deeper. God is the original substance. So it's substance, but it's also consciousness, right? This is where we get the term divine mind from, right? And then we take it deeper. What? There's this original consciousness, this creative power that creates worlds, and I'm an expression of that. The power that creates worlds is at work in me, right? So that's how we start knowing ourselves, is knowing by understanding that God is all things, and because God is all things, we have to be an expression of that. Right? There's not a little black bubble in the universe like where you are that God's not, and so you're not a part of it all, right? God is all things. The universe, source, substance, the divine is all things. And that means you. You can't get out of that. Now, from the Gospel of Thomas, teacher Yeshua says this: when you understand yourselves, you will realize that you are children of the living God. If you do not know yourselves, then you exist in poverty, and you are that poverty. Now, the living God That's divine mind, that's substance, because it is consciousness, it's activity, right? It's in motion, it's the potential and it's the demonstration, right? It's creator and creation. And so to be the children of that, what we call living God, means we're just an expression of the divine. So when we understand God is all things, and that means me, we take it deeper even then. And that means life supports me. I am created for life. I am created for the expression of the divine. And I may feel alone sometimes, but I'm not alone. The power that creates worlds is at work through me, for me, as me. We're learning to know ourselves, right? We're learning to know ourselves. And then we discover something else about our cosmic nature, and that's expansion. We are here to expand. The cosmos gives itself to us, through us, for us, as us, and it expands. So when you have an idea and you act on it, you create something. The divine has just expanded itself through you. Okay? So to know ourselves, to keep going deeper with this idea of God is all things and that means me, well, this is an infinite practice, right? This game will just go on and on and on. Okay? God is all things and that means me. This teaching never gets flat because we always just take it to the next level. If we are bored with it, and I've actually had people say to me, are you going to talk about the unity principles again? When are you going to talk about something new? It's like, if we are bored with the principles or if we are bored with the universal laws, we're not doing them, right? We're not doing them. Okay, so our nature is expansion. Now, when life feels limiting, when life feels like a battle, that means it's time to go deeper, to expand through those barriers, to be the mystic and see in the world as God sees, right? To see God as all things and to live as an alchemist, right? Like, okay, what am I going to do with all this then? Can I change it or do I have to rise above it, right? This is how we expand through it, right? We keep going back, right? Know yourself, be yourself, be yourself. We keep going back to God is all things and that means me. Now, what does this mean for me? Because it will be different than it was a year ago, right? And so getting back to this verse from the Gospel of Thomas, Yeshua goes on to say that if we don't know ourselves, we'll exist in poverty, and we are that poverty, right? We are that poverty. When I first heard this verse, I thought it was really mean. I thought it was so mean, right? Really had my feelings hurt. But really, poverty is a consciousness. It is lack consciousness. It is the wanting, but not believing that we can have something. It is feeling restriction and limitation. It is the feeling of not enough, not having enough, or not being enough, right? And then we see it in the conditions of our life, and we may blame the conditions or we may blame others. But see, this is the illusion. This is the illusion the Buddha was teaching, like to rise above, right? When we believe we are poverty, when we believe we are restricted, when we believe that we are not enough, that's the illusion. But we're not aligned with the divine within, and that's it. So we are that poverty because that poverty becomes our mindset, and it becomes how we see the world, and it becomes our experience of the world. All right. So remember, our third principle is we create our experiences through our way of thinking and acting. We are creating our experiences of our current conditions through our way of thinking and acting. Okay, for example, summertime. Where I live, summertime can be really hot, right? And that's the fact. That's the fact right there. It's hot where I live. It can be in the hundreds. It can be muggy, right? But Some people may decide, I hate summer. Summer's a horrible season. I'm going to hide out in my house until fall rolls around. Other people love summertime because it means travel. It means freedom, right? And having fun. Those are our perceptions. Those are our experiences. However, summer is just always summer, and that's just all you can say about it. Okay? We are creating our experiences of our current conditions through our way of thinking and acting. If we have a poverty mindset, we will never feel abundant. If we have a poverty mindset, we'll never believe that we live in a friendly universe. That poverty mindset will keep us from accessing the infinite within us so we can be guided to do the next thing, right? To get us through this challenge. Okay, so know thyself. Know thyself. You are an infinite being in a body. Know thyself. You are an infinite being in a body. Be yourself. Act like an infinite being in a body, right? Remember, you might have to act as if at first, and it's going to feel weird because those repetitions, if you're studying and trying to work really hard at it, it may take you 400 or so repetitions. I think it took me thousands, okay? But know yourself. You are an infinite being in a body. Be yourself. You are an infinite being in a body. Act like it, right? Act like it. Decide, okay, if I'm an infinite being in a body, it means that there's something within me that guides me. And maybe I'll listen to that for a change, right? Maybe I'll listen to it, okay? Know yourself, be yourself also means asking, okay, how can I know myself more deeply through play? How can I know myself more deeply through play? How can I gain greater understanding that I'm an infinite being in a body through play? Now, how this looks for a lot of spiritual people, and it's what I did, is, okay, spirit, let me see the number 1111 all the time, right? I started seeing 1111 back in 1999, like when my daughter was born. 1111 everywhere, okay? Okay, angels, help me get a parking spot, right? Just like, how can I have some fun with this? How can I have some fun with this? So here's our call to action this week. Our affirmation is short and simple. I know who I am. 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 And you can follow that up with, I'm an infinite being in a body. I know who I am. I'm a beloved child of a divine creator. I know who I am. Right? I am created in the image and likeness of this vast cosmic power. Okay? I know who I am. Know thyself. This changes everything. We can't go to the next level of this game without some understanding of this. Right? Not all the understanding. We're not going to get all the understanding ever. We're just going to keep getting deeper understanding, right? But we have to just be willing to know a little, to know ourselves a little bit, to open that door, right? Know thyself, be yourself. This is our first rule, right? So it opens the door to the next level, right? So we can keep on up-leveling ourselves in this game. Now, these rules, I will say, these rules may not matter to some people because they may already, and I say this because there are a lot of happy, successful people out there, and they're not even necessarily spiritually minded, okay? But they have an inner voice that maybe they're not saying, know thyself, I know who I am, an infinite being in a body, but maybe they're saying something like, well, I've done hard things before, so I can do this other hard thing. I'm a quick learner. Or it may be hard for me to learn things, but I have learned things, so I know I can do this, right? I'm resourceful. I've had new ideas. I've acted on things, right? So they might have that conversation in their head. So in a way, they really are knowing themselves, right? Because they're trusting that. But I will say, this understanding, this know thyself, this became really, really important to me because there was a time that I felt so disempowered. Like I couldn't seem to manage anything. I would listen to these principles and I would think they work for everybody but me. They work for everybody but me. I could not trust myself. right? I could not trust myself. I thought I was the only person, in my whole spiritual group that I was a part of. I was the only person who didn't have a spirit guide telling them what to do, right? I felt like I wasn't intuitive. Now what happens is that, what this means is that, if we can't trust ourselves, we cannot trust the divine. We cannot trust the divine, because if the divine guides us to do something, we will write it off. We'll make an excuse, right? And we'll be like, oh, that's wishful thinking, right? If it's some easy change we could do, we'll say that. Well, that's just wishful thinking, right? That wouldn't work. It's too easy. Or we're guided to do something hard. We're guided to sacrifice something that doesn't serve us. And if we don't trust ourselves, what we'll say is, oh, that's too hard. I don't want to do that. I couldn't do that. Right? That's what happens when we don't know ourselves, right? To know what we are truly capable of, right? Really, come on. That power that creates worlds is also working through us. What couldn't we do? If we would just trust in what that power is guiding us to do. Now, I just could not trust at this time in my life. And what I realized was I was too serious. I was taking this all too seriously. I was studying too hard. I was reading too many books without putting anything into practice. I wasn't getting any repetitions in. I wasn't having a good time with it, right? Nothing was clicking. Now, if we cannot trust, right? If we cannot trust ourselves, we won't be able to trust that there's that within us that knows what to do, how to do it, and it compels us to act on what it knows. Thank you, Ernest Holmes. That's his affirmation. Okay? So here's my invitation for this week. If you at some point feel like things are hard, things are not working out, ask this question. This is what I like to ask. What am I working with here? What am I working with here? Am I experiencing my life as a battle? Okay, that's really what we want to know. Am I experiencing life as a battle? Because if we are, it means we're just disconnected and we're in that poverty consciousness. That's all. That's what it means. So then we want to ask, okay, how can I know myself? How can I know myself? How can I know that power at work in me? How can I turn this into a game? How can I turn this into a game? Now, in closing here, I want to share the words from the Oracle of Delphi. Delphi? I don't know. But what the Oracle said, right, is heed these words, you who wish to probe the depths of nature. If you're not interested, don't worry about it, right? But if you want to probe the depths of nature, of your nature, of cosmic nature, okay, heed these words. If you do not find within yourself that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. Everything starts in here. Everything starts in here. In here. If you ignore, okay, this is going on now. If you ignore the wonders of your own house, how do you expect to find other wonders? Okay, remember what's at work in you, right? The power that creates worlds is at work in you. In you is hidden the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. Know thyself. Be yourself. See into the world as a mystic, right? See God in all things. Live in the world as an alchemist, right? What do I do with this? Do I change it? Do I rise above it? Right? Know thyself. Be yourself. This is how we are creating heaven on earth. And so next time, or until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all this. You're divinely designed to be playing this game of life, right? You are a one-time, one-of-a-kind cosmic event. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.